What the Tech is brought to you by Future. Future is a fitness app that matches you with an elite personal trainer for one-on-one training. Sign up for Future today at future.com/Andrew and get 50% off your first month. And by Clear. Clear uses your eyes and fingerprints instead of traditional ID documents to get you through airports and stadium security faster. Get your first 2 months of Clear for free by going to clearme.com/Andrew and using a promo code Andrew. Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian. I'm not in my studio right now. I hear Paul chuckling in the back in my head.
Sorry, there's something about when you came on video, I just laughed.
Paul says that I'm slowly morphing into a douchey YouTube guy. Before the show, we were just going back and forth.
You should just embrace your destiny, be true to yourself. It's all good.
Listen, at the end of the day, at least I'm not John Prosser. That's what matters to me.
Wow. I think we all say that, don't we? At the end of the day, just the silent prayer.
That's it. That's what we both say.
Not to end up like that guy.
Listen, we were ragging on him right before the show. He got verified on Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't know who he paid off.
Sure.
So, by the way, we love John.
Twitter likes to
I know we're going to get the messages. At least I love John, but I know that he's doing some great stuff over there. So I'm not in my studio. I'm actually in my office in Midtown Manhattan right now, and you could see it's perfectly set up. The only thing I have in here is a bar cart.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like a dry bar.
That's all I have in here. I haven't furnished the thing or anything.
Screen.
And a TV screen leading to nothing.
Sit there watching The Sopranos, swirling whiskey in a cup.
That's pretty much what I do here. But we do have a lot to talk about. I'm excited to do the show. We were going to do it yesterday. I was at home yesterday, actually, and Con Edison decided that this is the perfect time to repair some power lines that don't need to be repaired. And they started tearing apart all the lines on the block. So they came to me and they said, listen, we're going to have to turn the power off. It's going to take about 4 hours. I asked them, when are you doing this? They said, like right now. I go, if you're doing it right, if you're not going to do it right now, or if you could wait an hour, I would prefer it because I got to do this podcast. And I told him, he's like, no, we got to do it right now. They started the job at 2:00. They finished by 2:15. Paul was already long gone. He took off. So we could have done a show.
Well, you know what? So I had a Microsoft meeting and they had changed the time a couple times. And the last time they changed it, it was going to kind of infringe on the time we were doing the podcast. So I was like, guys, look, I got a podcast at 2 or whatever time it was. And I'm going to have to leave early. There's nothing I can do about it. And then you kind of came in with your Con Ed stuff. And I was like, So they were saying, well, we know you got to get going, Paul. But you just want to cover this couple things. And I said, actually, they just canceled the podcast, so it's fine. So I sat through this whole meeting for like an hour. And then I got off the phone and Andrew's like, hey, can you go right now? And I'm like, dude, no. I was just so elsewhere by the time, you know what I mean? They came back. I was just like, I can't, it's just no way. So sorry.
I do want to talk about a couple of things here. I went on therot.com the other day, and I don't know why I was thinking about this. You have a post on there for Samsung's next foldable phone, which is actually, it's a flip phone instead of like a foldable, like tablet style, which I want to talk about because I feel like this is the trend. This is this year's, hot trend that everybody starts seeing happen. Right. And I'm going to tell you why I think this is. I think this is going to catch on more than a lot of people imagine. And I'll tell you why. But before we do, I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank our producer, John. Suncast is producing this, and I want to thank him for doing this because I have no control over what we're clicking on. He's doing all the work while I'm sitting here at my desk doing a radio show. It's almost like doing a real radio show without having to produce anything. So I want to thank John for doing this. Right. But before we continue, I want to thank our sponsor, and that's Future. As a lot of you guys know, my New Year's thing was to kind of get back into shape, start going to the gym. But the hardest part is the motivation. You kind of need someone to motivate you to do these things, especially if you're me. I've kind of fallen out of the fitness realm, and now I'm in dad mode. So it gets very difficult to kind of commit and start working out. Paul knows. Paul's done this 1,000 times. But
Sure.
with Future, it's a fitness app that matches you with an elite personal trainer for remote one-on-one training. So I signed up for this, right? And this is awesome. You get a world-class trainer or coach. You personalize the workout plan. Your plan is created to work with your schedule, whether you're going to work or you work from home or you stay at home, whatever it is. They could kind of cater it to that. Every day, your coach checks in on you to keep you on track and make sure you're kind of doing it. They send you personal messages. You could adjust your routine and they follow your progress. Your data is tracked by an iPhone, either your iPhone, you could use your iPhone, or an Apple Watch. And if you don't have an Apple Watch, they send you one to use, which is awesome. They loan you one, which I absolutely love. So I signed up. I got my personal trainer, and this guy's been pinging me. Like, I had my initial meeting with him, and it's great. And he's like, "Hey, dude, you doing your thing?" And like, he's kind of like keeping me into this. So it's almost, I kind of need someone to do that and to kind of guilt me a little bit. And it's awesome because he'll message me every day. Hey, how's it going? What did you do today? Did you get this in? Did you get that in? It's totally flexible and awesome. And here's a great offer they have for you. You go to tryfuture.com/Andrew. You get 50% off your first month. That's tryfuture.com/Andrew. And you get 50% off your first month. If you're trying to get back into shape, or if this is something that you do and you are motivated by one-on-one training, this is the app for you. Tryfuture.com/Andrew. Paul, let's go into this conversation here. So I know that Motorola released they started doing the pre-orders for the RAZR phone. Some people have it already. I saw online they have, I guess, a pre-version of it. And now Samsung is releasing one where it's just a flip phone, and
Well,
it's one display. I mean, it's taking your phone, splitting it into half. Samsung has their Galaxy Z Flip that they announced, and I see this becoming the trend this year. I want to get your opinion of these devices.
yeah, I think how do I say this? Like, there's going to be dual screen displays and then folding displays, and I think folding displays are the natural future of this, and they can go in either direction. It's kind of interesting when you have a phone shaped device, you can open it up to kind of a tablet shaped device. There's obviously some great utility there, but the type of that you're talking about, where you fold it in half and you have what is essentially like a kind of like a small what do you call those things, like a Nintendo Game Boy or whatever, like the DS or whatever, where it's more pocket shaped or whatever. I think there's some value to that as well. So they kind of serve. It's almost like the opposite. I guess not really the opposite, but you the type you're talking about, you end up with a normal form factor, a phone form factor when it's unfolded, and then with the bigger ones like the Samsung Galaxy Fold and whatever else comes out of that, you end up with something that's like a small tablet. And so I think those are both really useful. I think they're good ideas. The first ones are going to be rough, but I think this is going to be a big part of the future of the smartphone market for sure.
If I'm going to take a guess, this is going to be the future of the mid-range market more than the iPhones and the Galaxy, like the
Mhm.
Galaxy Notes and stuff like that. This is going to be the mid-range phone market because
Interesting.
um, if you think about it, this is very convenient to most people. A lot of people complain about the size of their phones. I don't, but like my father, for example, he's one of these people that complains about the size of his iPhone. It's too big. He doesn't wear. He's like, I don't like it. It's too big. I think
Yeah.
this is going to start competing in that mid-range market where you're going to have a lot of these, like the Galaxy Z. I mean, the spec-wise, it's fine. It's not a lower end phone, but it's not. It's an 855 Snapdragon, so it's not terrible. But
Yeah.
this market is overly saturated with just clone phone after another one. They're all the same. It doesn't even matter. So how do you
Right.
distinguish that you're something different? You start doing a flip phone, it's going to open up sales for devices that never would have sold before because of this feature, because of this gimmick.
I do this thing, I see people who put phones in their back pocket, And I've only done that on very temporary. This is not my typical way to carry a phone. And I have been horrified to have sat on a phone that is in my back pocket. And I'll sometimes, I'll go to like get some food to go at a restaurant or something, and I have different things going on, and I got to put it somewhere, and so I throw it in my back pocket, and then I sit in the car, and I'm like, oh God, because you don't want me sitting on your phone. But something that was designed to fold in half like that, like I wouldn't worry about that. It's like a wallet. Actually, maybe that's a better comparison. It's like a Costanza wallet. Um, I just think from a portability perspective, that makes more sense. Even if you put it in your front pocket, if you sit down, your waist kind of bends, and the phone is in that part that's bending. It's not a good place for it. Um, I just think it makes sense. Either way. So if you like big screens, or you need a big screen for eyesight reasons, whatever, open that thing up, get a big, small tablet type of a display. That's fantastic. I think the question here for me, or the question I have, is more like, well, how long before these things are completely viable? I don't think this year is going to be a great year to buy something like this. And does this apply to other markets? Does it make sense to have a folding screen, dual screen kind of a deal in like a PC market or a tablet market or whatever? And I'm sure we're going to see stuff like that as 2020 continues.
Which way of folding you're going to see the dominance, especially in the phone market. I think in the phone market, to be honest, it's going to be this version where it flips down instead of flipping side to side. Yeah, really? I think so, because it's a familiar look to a phone to a lot of people. They expect, if you grew up in the era where clamshell phones were the thing, which is pretty much our entire audience, right? We really don't have an audience of 14-year-olds that never grew up with this thing, but that's how a phone was. It's recognizable.
Sure.
Unless I continue dressing like this on the show, then maybe we'll start getting the younger demo. But
Can we start doing like toy reviews for little kids next? Is that
I would love to do Ryan's toy review. Yeah, Andrew's toy review. That's it. I told you this. My daughter does YouTube videos in the mirror. Like, she'll look in the mirror. She's like, "Hey guys, Taylor here."
Yikes.
Yeah. Maybe she'll start doing it. Maybe she's my cash cow, my meal ticket out of here, Paul.
Exactly.
But as far as tablets go, I don't know. Do you think Apple would do this?
Yeah, I think eventually they will. And Apple went kicking and screaming to small tablets, to phablets. They don't like to do things that they didn't invent. But I think this is a natural progression for the market. And you were saying, like, you expect the flip phone style to be the bigger deal, and I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like both types of folding, both directions can make sense. It's possible that like an iPhone Max might become the bigger folding one, where it becomes like a phab or like a small tablet, and you could imagine like an iPhone SE or something would be the small one. So we'll see. But yeah, I do, absolutely, of course, they're not going to be able to avoid this. He says, thinking years ago they were going to put touch on a Mac, but I just don't see them avoiding it.
Samsung, since we're on the subject of it, their S20 is coming out. So they skipped ahead. They skipped about 10 phones in the lineup.
So that you know why they changed it, right?
Why?
Because it's twice as good. No, because they're matching the year now.
Oh, is that what's
the
S20
for 2020? Yeah.
You know what? That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
For all the skipping that we've seen done, it kind of makes sense. But they're gonna have multiple versions of this thing. So they're gonna have the S20, and it's gonna be 5G. They're gonna have the S20 Plus, that's also 5G. Then the Ultra. So they have 3 different versions of this. One's a 6.2-inch phone, one's a 6.7, and a 6.9-inch version of this. That is humongous.
I know.
So the battery also goes up. So it starts at a 4,000 milliamp battery, then 4,500, then 5,000 milliamp battery. I don't know where that stands when you compare the Note. What kind of battery is the Note?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember. It's in the 4,000 range. It's probably a 4,500.
It's not a 5,000. Okay.
Oh no, it's not a 5. No.
So here's where it gets nuts, right? Here's where it gets crazy. You ready for this? So it's a 12 megapixel camera standard, right?
Yep.
64 megapixel telephoto
4,300
lens
on the plus.
on. I'm sorry.
4,300 on the Note 10 Plus.
Yeah. Well, this is the 4300 on the Note 10 Plus.
Yep.
Okay, so this is a much larger
That's the
battery.
biggest one. Yep.
Yeah, this is tremendous. It's really big. But if you got the Galaxy, it's a 108 megapixel main widescreen display and a 48 megapixel telephoto lens and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. 108 megapixels.
Right. So
Now,
I I will say this is something that's I'm curious about, right? 108 is ludicrous. It's probably unnecessary, but the only major area where I think the Samsung phones have fallen flat is the camera quality. Not that
mhm.
it's bad, it's just not quite as good as the market leaders. Um, this indicates like they're serious, maybe a little too serious, you know. I'm curious. Like now I'm curious because if they are able to pull off the camera quality, then Samsung becomes a really viable option for the people who were looking at iPhones before or the Google Pixels or the Huawei's or whatever. So that's interesting to me.
Kind of I mean, if we're going back to a couple years ago, we've always said the megapixels really don't matter. It's the sensor on the camera, it's how much light it
Mhm.
lets in.
Yep.
And we saw the megapixel game happen years ago. How many megapixels was that Lumia phone?
Oh, I think it was 440. You mean the 1020?
The 1020, which was phenomenal. It was a
I want
phenomenal
to say it
phone.
was 40 or 48. Yeah, it was a great camera.
Okay.
That one was held up. They didn't have any specialized hardware for the camera, so it was all software based.
Oh my god.
It was really slow. That was the
It
problem.
was slow, but I remember we were at Rattle and Hum, and I think it was you. It wasn't Mary Jo, and you took a picture, and it was a dark room too. You know, it's a bar.
Yeah.
It's a dingy bar. You took a
Yep.
photo of a flag on the wall, and
Okay.
and I looked at it, and I'm like, okay. He's like, and you said, no, but wait, and he zoomed in,
Yes. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
it's clear, and I'm like, okay, now I get it. You know, but
Right.
108 megapixels. So we haven't seen a major bump in that on any phone, right? The iPhone, the other Samsung phones, nobody is really they slowed
No,
down when it came to the
and
megapixel, I guess, wars.
yeah, because that's like you said earlier. It's the number of megapixels is not how you determine the quality of a camera. It's the size and quality of the sensor, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see. That's why I said maybe they're kind of over. It's like what are you? It's like showing up in an IROC. It's like what are you overcompensating for here? Like what do
Excuse
Real,
me. There's nothing wrong
yeah.
with having an 88 iRock as your first car
No,
in
there's only a problem,
2001.
right? Yeah, I was gonna say it's only a problem if you're doing it today. Um, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I've look, the iPhone has held steady. I think it's still like 16 megapixel across most of their sensors, something like that. And those cameras are pretty great. So obviously you don't have to go that high, but I think one of the big things that people are looking at in camera quality on a smartphone today is optical zoom. This is going to have crazy optical zoom capabilities. Um, we'll see. We have to just seeing the number doesn't mean anything other than it tells me they really are overcompensating here for what is a perceived negative of their current phone. So that tells me they're serious about it, and we'll see what that looks like. So we just have to see it
Yeah.
before we can decide.
Yeah, so you're going to get a 10x optical zoom on the Ultra, on the
Right.
S20 Ultra, which I'm actually very curious to see how that works because the other ones are going to
Yep.
have 3x, which is understandable because right now the iPhone, what is it? It's a 2x optical zoom that
Still
it
2x
has.
optical. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So imagine a 10x optical zoom on this thing. I'm very curious because you always said the big question with smartphones is the optical zoom.
Right.
It's something that has been very difficult for them to be able to do with the technology that they've had up until now. And
Yep.
Samsung is claiming that they're able to do a 10x optical zoom on this. I wonder if it's a true optical zoom or it's doing some
Like a hybrid thing.
software based stuff
Well, I mean, they have the
with the
capability
megapixels.
using like what is essentially periscope technology, I guess. Where you're kind of you're using mirrors to to look out up here, and you can do the work inside the body. We'll see. And this is
Yeah,
the
I'm
thing I
very
care
curious
about the
about it.
most. Yeah.
7 nanometer chipset in these things also.
Yeah, I know.
So the chip that they have, is it going to be, is it one chip? Because normally what they do, different markets get different chipsets.
Yeah, no, it's the same. So the thing you're
Interesting.
referring to is like an Exynos chip or whatever. This is the Samsung
Yeah.
7 nanometer. No, in the United States and North America, they're going to use the Snapdragon. What is it? 865, I guess, for this coming year.
Okay.
And then that's for international markets.
I'm curious why they do that, because
I am too,
I've
actually.
heard
Yeah.
I've heard that the Exynos devices are better.
Huawei uses like what they call Kirin chips, which are their take on. They're you know all of these ARM chips kind of come from the same family of technologies, and so companies can build off of whatever the ARM design is. And of course, Qualcomm is the biggest company that does
Mhm.
that, but Huawei does it, Samsung does it. So it's possible with individual chipsets that one or the other will be better, and next year it might be different. But roughly they're probably pretty equivalent to each other, the flagships, I would imagine.
I think so. I mean,
I think
I
so.
sit on the. I used when I was primarily using an Android device, I would sit on the forums a lot, and I would kind of read about what's going on and modification people were making.
Yeah.
And that was always a discussion where the Snapdragon processors were not as good as the Exynos
Oh,
ones.
the other stuff. I feel like they've kind of stepped it up, and that's been true for a while now, I think.
Yeah, interesting. I want to
835,
continue this
845.
discussion of me pretending to be a YouTuber today, and
Yeah.
Paul
Yep.
leaving me thumbs
Talking to the
downs
bros.
constantly based on my outfit. I'm a 35-year-old man. Wow, I almost lied about my age. I'm a 35-year-old
Yep.
man, and I'm dressing like you got to see my sneakers, Paul. I'm wearing Jordans right now too,
Oh my
and my
God.
jeans are like jeggings.
Jeggings.
Jeggings. My
Oh
jeans are so
God.
tight right now. This is who I've
Sure.
become. It's fine. I'm literally at midlife
The
and I'm having a
problem is your
crisis.
your jeans are too tight because you're eating too much. Like if
That is why. Thank God I got Future as my advertiser
yeah,
to kind of get me back in shape. Since we're talking
right.
about ads, I want to talk about I love these guys. I want to talk about a new sponsor, and that's Clear. I'm sure, Paul, you've seen Clear at
Yeah.
the airports, at ball games, and they are gracious enough to come on the show and offer our viewers a great offer. Go to clearme.com/Andrew and you get 2 months of Clear service for free. So this is the cool thing about Clear, right? Clear gets you through security with a tap of your fingers. It uses biometric scanning, so you go through the process. It's a little bit less stressful on you more than anything else. It's essentially replacing your ID, your physical ID. It uses your eyes and fingerprints to get you through security because you're technically the best ID out there. The sign up process is very easy. I did it at Penn Station. So I signed up online. I did the process and I went into Penn. They take my fingerprints, they scan your eye, and that's it. You're done. And for me, what I'm going to use this for is at Citi Field. It's just a seamless process to do it, which is great. It provides access to airports and stadiums. Clear helps you get through security in a faster way. 65 plus airports and stadiums across the country, and more is being added almost every day. They're constantly adding stuff. They also have a family plan. If you're traveling with your family, you could add up to 3 adult family members at a discounted rate. Also, kids under 18 are free. They could go through the process as well. Listen, I travel with kids. Anything to make the process easy is great. I love that I'm seeing them in ballparks, which is for me. That's where I'm probably going to use it the most because I probably go to more baseball games than I fly. Actually, that says a lot because I travel about 8 times a year. And how many times did you fly last year, Paul? Do you have the number?
No, I mean,
You think 10 times?
yeah, definitely,
Probably,
at least
right?
10. Yeah.
Yeah, I did at least 8, and I went to about 20 something baseball games.
Wow,
So to know that
that's pretty
yeah,
impressive, by the way.
well,
I
I'm
maybe
7
went
minutes
to
from City
10,
Field.
10 baseball games, but of course, I went to minor league games, so mostly. So most of them
I
were.
think I think 2016 I went to like 30.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was
You saw
working from
baseball
home
games in
exclusively.
Pittsburgh and DC. and then the
I was
rest of
waiting
them are
for a Mets
mildly.
joke. I was waiting for a Mets joke like that. You consider baseball?
Oh, I'm sorry. Were these were Mets games?
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
I didn't recognize I didn't recognize the field name. Sorry, I thought we were talking about Major League Baseball.
Yeah, thank you. But you know what? There's Clear over there. And I highly, highly recommend you guys check it out. Go to clearme.com/Andrew. Use the promo code Andrew at checkout and get 2 months of Clear service for free. Well worth every penny. Big fan of it, and I'm a customer, so it makes it easy for me to talk about. Clearme.com/Andrew. Use the code Andrew when you check out. I was waiting for the jab, Paul. You were really slow on that one.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
I was
you were really slow
was
on that one.
I think the reason is I was so impressed by how many games you had been to. That's actually
Yeah.
that's rather incredible.
Yeah, but I'm 7 minutes from City Field.
No, whatever. That's great. That's good. Baseball's great.
I love baseball.
All baseball.
It's almost like meditating for me. I go there and
Even
I
Mets
go into a
baseball, but
different.
I would never admit that in
We spoke about the Motorola RAZR, but I don't think I've gotten your opinion of this. It launches on the 6th. It's going to be $1,500. What do you out of all these the concept of this? What do you think of
Yeah.
what they're doing with this?
Nothing. I think this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Are you getting a review unit?
No, I don't care about this at all. I don't think this has any place today in the market at all. I think there is a small market for flip phones still, but not for $1,500 flip phones. Like I don't think the flip phone as a luxury device makes no sense. I don't understand it. So
That's all I wanted to know. Your opinion.
Sorry, Motorola.
On Thurrott.com, Brad wrote an article. The Xbox Series X hardware is showing up early. There's some photos of this release. The image was posted on NeoGAF, I believe. Right?
Not actually sure.
I think it was NeoGAF. Yeah, NeoGAF. What do we know about the hardware so far? Because we've kind of had an idea of what like the ports were going to be like on this thing, but
pretty straightforward. I mean, it's there's no surprises at all. There's nothing special. There's nothing additional. It is literally a mini gaming tower PC.
What were people expecting?
PC. I don't know. I think one of the big questions was whether they were going to do 2 HDMI ports
For pass through.
and for pass through, and they're not. And of course, with the Xbox One, you got to remember this was 2014. I think it came out, the original version. They were pursuing a real digital media strategy at the time. It was going to be like a media hub for your living room kind of deal. And obviously that fell apart. And so right now they're looking at Xbox as a pure video game console. Not that, you can't run apps and do Netflix if you want to, but the focus here is not on integration with your cable provider or anything like that. It's like, look, this is just, it's a console. So I think they've dialed back the crazy.
Also, most people don't. I mean, we're in the age of cord cutting, so having because remember that was the thing about the Logitech box. Remember that Logitech Google TV that came out?
Yeah. Yep.
What year was that? 2012, 2011. The big deal for me was pass through because I thought, in my mind, I was like, people don't like switching inputs, so
it's like,
they're going to be more inclined to use it.
Blaster,
Yeah,
it's just,
and it was an overlay over your existing, I guess, whatever input you were on. So if you were on cable, for example, this thing overlaid over that, and you didn't have to change interfaces, which I liked a lot. But most people, not saying most, but a lot of people cut the cord. Then they don't have cable anymore, and they've gotten used to switching to input, different input devices.
Yep.
Between Fire TVs and Apple TVs and Roku's.
Yeah, and people have people who retain cable will have Netflix and or Amazon Prime and whatever they might have, and they're used to kind of going between those things. And so, look, if we could have one interface that would control all that stuff and actually work, I think that would be interesting to people. But people who have used stuff like this, they've seen it's clunky, and I'm sure on Microsoft's half, what they've seen is not a lot of people do it.
Is there a strategy? Do they have a strategy for media consumption on the new Xbox?
Not beyond just what this is the same thing everywhere else. It's just you're going to run apps. You can pick the apps you want. You can use those apps. I mean, I don't think. Look, obviously, some people are going to do this. If you could make the argument that you have this one device that does everything. In some ways, that's more efficient than having multiple devices. But honestly, you know this. I mean, you can get a Fire TV stick for $40. It was 25 during Christmas or during the holidays or whatever. That's a much more efficient device to use for this kind of thing than a giant, like a tank, Xbox giant fan, loud thing. I just don't think it's good for that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
So this is just a return to it being what it should be. It's a video game console. It's for video games.
And that's uh, everybody's trying to be a little bit of everything. And
Yeah.
that's, I feel like with the Xbox One, they really suffered in the early days with that because Sony was really just a gaming console and they were trying to be
Yeah.
something else. And a lot of people seemed offended by it. I don't know why at the end of the day, but they were
Yeah.
a little bit
Yep.
offended by this.
I know.
And they went backwards, and I thought that was going to be, I think we spoke about this when they unveiled this. I thought that was going to be the future of this device where yes, it's a phenomenal gaming machine and that's the primary thing,
Yeah.
but this is going to be your entertainment hub. It's going to have
Right.
all the apps, it's going to have all these applications on there. They never really opened it up to developers though.
Well, I mean, look, all the big apps are there, but I mean, I just, you don't look. I need to go to the corner store to get a gallon of milk. Can I take the tank? No. You take you take the car. You take the device that makes the most sense. It's just not. It's just not the right thing for that purpose. There are
Yeah.
always going to be exceptions. I know there are people who use it for this purpose, but I don't know. I'm sure they had all these ideas. I'm sure the original vision for the Xbox involved, remember, it's not like it ever shipped with a remote control. I mean, you can buy one, but they haven't exactly updated that thing in 100 years either. So I'm sure the original vision was you sit down in front of your Xbox, you talk to it, there's a Connect, you tell it you want to watch whatever channel, it just does it for you. I'm positive they thought that was going to be the future, and nobody wanted to do that.
Yeah.
It just didn't work out.
Yeah. What's going on with UWP apps?
So this one, well, this has been the center of my day. This one's tough because I'm kind of at the center of this controversy, unfortunately. But how do I explain this for people who don't really care about this stuff too much? I don't want to take up your whole day with this, but Microsoft
please.
is a platform maker. They make Windows, and so part of being a platform maker, whether you're Microsoft or Apple or Amazon or Google or whatever, is you have to support developers with some kind of a languages and environments and frameworks and ways to make apps that run on those things. And so this in the Windows world, this has evolved over time. Back in the day, we would write these desktop applications like Word and Notepad and like web browsers like this. And the technologies that developers use to create those apps are pretty old fashioned, frankly. And so they've tried to modernize them over time. The web informed that stuff, I would say, back in the early 2000s. If you look at things like Windows Presentation Foundation, which came out with Windows Vista, this notion that you could make an app that would reflow text, as you move things around and all that. And then in more recent years with Windows 8 first and now with Windows 10, they've embraced what are essentially mobile design paradigms. So multi-touch, of course, but also there are things about mobile apps that are actually kind of cool. Like they can kind of go to sleep in the background and it's better for the battery. Like they don't have to just sit there consuming power the whole time if you're not using them. And so UWP is Microsoft's latest developer framework, for lack of a better term, for Windows 10 for creating apps that you would run, get in the store. They're actually mobile apps. Like they're not full featured desktop applications. It's a mobile app platform. And this was going to be the way forward, except that developers never really bought into it. And a couple of years back, Microsoft had to scale plans back for UWP. And they're basically making that functionality that used to be only available in UWP available to developers who choose to use other, not platforms, frameworks, essentially, if that makes sense. I'm kind of at the center of this because I reported on what Microsoft said to us privately at Build last year, which was that UWP was dead. That got a lot of people freaked out because some of them were UWP developers or Windows 10 fans or whatever they were. And that's not what Microsoft was saying publicly, which which it isn't. But it is in fact what's happening. But whatever. But they also, I think they're confusing like what it means for UWP to be dead. What's dead is that strategy. Like UWP is not the only way forward for developers. Microsoft is embracing developers of all kinds, whatever technologies they want to use, whatever frameworks, and they're not locking functionality into UWP anymore. They're going to make it available everywhere. So what happened this week was, the seventh or eighth step down this path. They're going to eliminate the ability to monetize apps you put in the store with ads. So if you think about it, any store, if you buy an iPhone app or an Android app, you could pay for the app. That would be one way to monetize it. But sometimes, they put ads in the apps, right? So you like a weather app, maybe you have like an ad at the bottom. They're getting rid of that capability for UWP. So what does that mean? I mean, honestly, not much, in the scope of things. But I think what this caused was people who in the past were kind of critical of me in particular, because I was being very honest and clear about what was happening, are now saying, oh, I guess this thing is dead. It's like, right. I said that last year. I was right then. I'm still right now, but I mean, whatever. I mean, I don't think that much has changed. I think time has gone on. Microsoft is rolling back all of the stuff that they had done before, and just being more accommodating to developers who don't want to use UWP. So in this case, I think in some ways it's more about the store, because the store hasn't emerged as a good way to get apps for Windows. And so if you as a developer want to monetize your app, first you will be able to deploy it outside of the store. You don't have to use the store, and that's great. But that means you'll have to be able to use other ad networks or whatever that have nothing to do with the store, that aren't tied to the store, because they're kind of severing that connection. So it's up to you as a developer to figure out what that is, I guess. But
so, what you as a developer, what's the feature for you on the Windows front?
Well, it's like what's left. So look, first of all, why would anyone target UWP today? Like as a developer, like why would you bother to do that? One of the reasons is if for some reason, I'm trying to imagine what this app would be, but if you had an app and you wanted it to run on like a HoloLens, on a Surface Hub, if you had an app you wanted to run on a HoloLens and a Surface Hub and on Windows and maybe on Xbox, UWP is the only solution.
This is your solution for you.
This is unfortunately the only choice today, and we'll see if that changes. But a lot of developers didn't do that, so there just wasn't a big groundswell of support for it. So, I think the big news here is like, look, there are roughly 1 billion people using Windows 10. It's a big audience. They're not super engaged. They're not navigating through app stores looking for new stuff to download, whatever it is. And so, if you do want to target that audience as a developer, you now have a much wider range of choices. You don't have to worry about what Microsoft is pushing. And if you want to build what used to have to be a store app, you're going to be able to deploy it from the web or from your own, however you want to do it. Like you don't have to go through the store.
Yeah.
I don't know if this makes any sense. I'm trying to make this make sense, but it's.
Since you brought up Surface Hub, you want to talk about this quickly? What happened?
Yeah.
They delayed it again.
And that's the important word. I said to Brad, but you forgot to add the word again, because I've already delayed it once. 2 years ago, Microsoft announced something called Surface Hub 2. Really exciting. There was just going to be one size, roughly 55 inches. You could use it like a normal display. It's a collaborative thing, like multiple people use it at the same time. But it could rotate, right? So you could use it in portrait mode. But you could also stack them side by side, and so you could have 2 or 3 of them side by side, and it could turn into one display.
Entire
it was a lot more mobile. Yeah, really cool. I mean, and we I'm trying to remember if it was that first year. I think it was that first year we got to play around with it. It was really cool. And then late that year, or was it a year? No, I guess it was a year later. Before the following, they announced it at the Build Conference, which is the Microsoft Developer Conference. So a year later, so last year, they came out and said, we're going to have a little trouble delivering on this thing that we wanted to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to release the first version. It'll be less expensive, and it will use the existing software. It's not going to have any of the rotation stuff. You're not going to be able to stack them side by side. but it will still be the new form factor, and it will have the old software. You know,
Okay.
and they at the time they said they did it because they had existing customers who were like, we already have some Surface Hubs, and we want these things to all work together. So it'd be better for us if you released a version that had the old software. And so at the time we were like, yeah, I'm sure no one said that, but whatever. Okay, fine. But now what's happening is, oh, I should add, I'm sorry. They changed it. So they were going to have two versions. They, instead of just Surface Hub 2, they were going to have Surface Hub 2S, which is that
And
version I just described. And then X was going to be the futuristic version with the rotation and the ability to stack those things side by side.
But that one was supposed to use uh, Core OS, right?
Right, Windows Core OS, that's right.
Yeah.
So the other thing that happened, I should say, is they were going to they had a modular unit in the back. So if you bought a 2S, you were going to be unplug this compute unit and plug in the 2X compute unit and have a brand new type of machine, because
Okay, so you could upgrade. So they wanted to sell it currently. They didn't have the technology finished. They didn't have that aspect finished. So you could upgrade it if you wanted to.
Yeah, and to be honest, even though that was kind of forced on them because they couldn't get it done, I actually think that modular thing is a good idea.
Of course, because the displays don't go bad.
Yeah, like a Surface Studio would really benefit from that. If you could pull out the logic board and replace it with a brand new thing, that'd be kind of cool. Like that display is worth at least $3,000 all by itself.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out they can't get this. They're still not going to be able to get this thing to market. So, what Brad has found out is that they're going to delay. They're delaying it again. They're probably not going to be able to do it. It's not coming this year. They're going to add as many capabilities as they can to the existing 2S and see how that goes. But the capabilities that are not coming to it include the rotation thing and the ability to stack them side by side, which I think we can all agree with the coolest parts of it. So it's uncertain what this means long term, but short term, they just haven't been able to get this to come together. And the primary reason is that the Windows Core OS, which is just apparently in a terrible state right now.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, it makes sense with Core OS still being developed. I remember how excited you were when we spoke about this the first time. I'm surprised it's been delayed. We're talking 2018. Now we're in 2020. It probably won't ship for quite some time.
2021 will be the earliest. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, is it obsolete at that point? You got a 3-year delay?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is obviously in some ways kind of a niche market, right? These conference displays. On the other hand, it's kind of a good Microsoft market. It's productivity focused. It's for the enterprise, whatever. But I don't know. I don't know what this means. Microsoft's inability to ship this thing should be a little concerning, and I don't know, for example, this past week, Microsoft just had their quarterly earnings, right? So the Surface business actually had about $2 billion in revenues for the first time ever, by the way. It's the highest it's ever been. But internally at Microsoft, I was interested to say, and they said this publicly, they had expected revenues to be much higher than that, and they were disappointed in the results. Now, they had released three new Surface PCs in the quarter, all of them very good, pretty good, or very good, right? Surface Pro X, Surface Pro 7, Surface Laptop 3. They announced, but then delayed the Surface earbuds, which I don't think we're going to push the needle too far on revenues, but whatever. They can't ship earbuds on time. They can't ship Surface on time.
How? I mean, that's the simplest thing they could ship.
It's weird. Like at some point, you have to look at all the problems that Surface has had and wonder if these guys are ever going to get out of this spiral. And it also puts the decision to pre-announce Surface Duo, which is that dual screen Android device, and Surface Neo, which is the dual screen Windows 10X device, which by the way is also based on Windows Core OS. Pre-announced those last October. Anyone else nervous about this? I mean, it's, if either one of those is delayed, which by the way, the second one of those could be because it too is based on Windows Core OS. I mean, I think at this point you have to kind of ask some serious questions about Surface. I love Surface. Overall, I mean, those products, I think they're fantastic.
The high quality products, for the
Yeah,
most part,
beautiful
I
looking,
really,
you
they're
know.
all done well.
Yeah,
Every one of them.
but there's been weird stuff over the years, right? There was that write down in the first version, the huge reliability problems, the Surface Gate stuff from Surface Pro 4 and Surface Book. Surface Go is a piece of crap. Frankly, it's
Yeah.
terrible. They didn't even design that in house. It was done by a third party, which is crazy. They're not selling very well. I mean, even like their first nearly $2 billion quarter, Apple had a $7 billion quarter for MacBooks. And by the way, sales fell. It was a
Yeah.
bad quarter for Apple. That
On
business is
MacBooks.
almost,
On MacBooks.
yeah, that market's almost 4 times as big in a
Yeah.
bad quarter, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. You have to wonder. That's all. I mean,
Yeah.
and it makes
It's
me sad
interesting.
because I look, I really think there's some amazing thinking there, some neat products, and I don't know. I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah. Can you do like a 10-minute post show today? Or you got to get out
Are
of
we
here?
going to do it like right now?
No, like, yeah, we're going to wrap it up here and then we can do a
Yeah.
10-minute post.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I was
cool.
hoping to get out of here by 3. Just
Yeah, perfect. Guys, go to our website, gfqnetwork.com for all things Paul. Go to Tharot.com. Remember, Patreon, if you would like the show, if you support the show, you want to keep us doing this. If you want me to keep doing the show in weird places, dress up like a
yes.
bad
Also,
14-year-old kid.
weird days and times.
Weird days and times. Go to
What's your child
patreon.com/whatthetype.
toy review of the week?
It's the LOL toys, the LOL dolls that my daughter loves. That's what I'm going to be reviewing next week on the show. Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarian, of course, at The Rot. And that's it for this week. We'll be back normal time next week. See you next time. Take care.